Welcome to another episode of Etem UP. I'm joined by Kevin Bieksa, Juice, and we'll get to the Juice nickname here shortly. But Juice, thanks for joining us. And how are things?
Things are good. Busy, a lot of travel, just coming off the All-Star weekend in Toronto, which was amazing. Talked to your boy Frank Vatrano there. I think we kind of smoothed some things over. We had a little bit of a turbulent past from our playing days against each other.
Talk to
Told me
me.
that I was
Talk
old.
to me. Hold on, just one quick story. The top of the list
Yeah, he
story.
told he told me that I was too old for this league and to let the young kids play. I
And how did
remember
that
when he
make you
was coming.
feel?
I wanted to punch his face in, obviously. And I asked him, "Who are you?" And he's proven to me in the last couple of years who he is by having some great years and scoring a lot of goals. And he had a really good All-Star game as well.
You know what? And he's a guy that goes so hard. You know what I mean? Like he moves his feet, he goes so hard. And we were just talking about youth hockey before we hopped on here, and we were talking about a player in particular, and it's like that player doesn't go hard enough. Like he has the skill, but he just doesn't go hard. Like the best players, you look at the McKinnons, you look at just the best players in the world. They go so hard, and Vetrano's a guy who just moves his feet, hounds it, and goes so hard. You know.
You know what I'll say about him is going into the All-Star weekend, knowing he was the representative of the Ducks, I didn't know a whole lot about him other than just like a few personal experiences from playing against him years ago. So I kind of did a little bit of a research background just to kind of get familiar with him. And I was kind of looking at his stats and everything, and I'm like, wow, like this guy puts up goals in every league he's ever played in. And so, anyways, I'm kind of looking like, wow, he's had some good years. He's obviously having a great year this year, putting the puck in the net. But some guys are just natural goal scorers. Like he's got that really good shot. He's a lefty. He goes low glove, low blocker. And sure enough, like he gets a chance in the All-Star game. And you're talking about like the 4 to 6 best goalies in the world. And he buries them. Like he's got a great shot. And some guys, as you know, just have a knack for scoring goals. Like they don't need 4, 5, 6 chances. They need one good chance
Kind of
and
like you. Are
boom,
you talking about
puck in it.
yourself?
Oh no, unfortunately not. I'd be in the Hall of Fame right now if I could score anything, but he's got that knack for sure.
And was he on his best behavior there at All Star Weekend?
Well, like he's like the American, the typical American that I've heard that's a little grumpy, and he was in a good mood, which was nice. I saw a couple smiles, a couple smirks out of him, so pleasantly surprised. The first thing I came at him with, I go, "Oh, you in a good mood right now?" Like, what are you talking about? I go, "I heard you're that grumpy American. You're that Cam Fowler. You're that Ryan Kessler. You're that life's not, never had a good day." And he just kind of smirked, and so it was no, it was good. He was doing really
Well,
good.
I'd hope so. You're at All Star Weekend. You know, you're at the top of the food chain. Toronto. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Let's get to the nitty gritty here, Juice. Something I just learned, and here come this idiot didn't know, Juice went to Bowling Green. I had no clue you went to Bowling Green. I know so much about your career, your post career, which we'll get to here in a second too. But Bowling Green, like, touch on that, the whole experience. When I think Bowling Green, I think of Rob Blake. You know what I mean? Rob Blake.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong. Did Nelson Emerson go there? Is that how they're close? Did they meet there and play there?
Blakey, Nelson Emerson, Gary Galley, Dave Ellett. So
Gary
kind of
Galley,
known
what
for their
names?
known for their defensemen over the years.
And who are some of your teammates? Any well known players come out of there? I mean, besides yourself, any teammates?
Jordan Sigalet
Okay,
played
yeah,
games in the NHL goalie, and now
yep,
he's the goalie coach for the Calgary Flames.
good
And
for
then his
him.
younger brother Jonathan, he had like a short. I think he played a couple games for the Bruins as well, and a lot of time in the AHL in Providence. But he had a really great career over in Europe in Slovakia. So those are kind of like two guys there. But honestly, like growing up, I grew up in Ontario, home of the OHL, like a million teams within, an hour drive. So I grew up thinking, probably OHL. I got drafted into the OHL by Don Cherry his first year owning the Mississauga Ice Dogs. I went to camp. I actually made the team as a 16-year-old defenseman. And I don't know why. Well, actually, I do know why. We went to a showcase the year before in the University of Michigan, and we went to a game, Michigan versus Lake Superior State in Yost, which for people that don't know is probably the best U.S. college hockey rink in terms of atmosphere and everything. So I go to that game, and it's Mike Combrie's first game in college hockey. And if people that don't remember Mike Combrie, he was one of the most dynamic offensive players. like a little bit ahead of his time, right? When it was still kind of like a more defensive, tight checking style. And this guy's going end to end rushes. He's got the half tuck like Gretzky. He's doing the wand over the puck. And he was electric. And I'm watching this game, and the crowd's going nuts. And they're all kicking the bench, the floor, which is like aluminum and making all this noise. And I'm like, I want to go to college hockey.
That's right with
So
that place, the aluminum
yes,
floor.
the
So they
aluminum
bang.
stepping.
I've never
Oh,
played in it. They bang their feet on the aluminum there.
and like the fans are all college kids, they're all their peers. So they're all like chanting the whole game, almost like a soccer atmosphere. Like,
Wow.
who's he? Who care? Like it was such a cool environment. So I'm 16 years old. I always had in the back of my head, like, I want to go to college, and like it'd be, I didn't know where I was going to go with hockey. It'd be nice to get a paid for education.
Yeah.
So my dad and I, we always kind of had that plan. So when I made the Mississauga Ice Dogs in the OHL, actually Brian McGrattan, I grew up with him. He's a good friend of mine. He ended up staying. I ended up saying, I'm going to actually go back to Tier 2 Junior A and try to get a scholarship. And Bowling Green was the team I chose eventually.
That's crazy. So moving on here, Juice, and your time is so valuable. You got 1,000 different things going on. So I'm trying to wrap this things up as quick as possible. 808 career regular season games played between the Vancouver Canucks and the Anaheim Ducks. You spent 05 to 06, 2014-15 with the Vancouver Canucks, 597 games with them. And then 2015, 16, 17, 18 with the Anaheim Ducks, 211 games played. One thing that I always felt fascinating, like when I got traded to New York, just the difference in organization between my time in Anaheim and just a different organization. Like you get to another place, New York, they have the black cars, literally every dropping you off, picking you up, wherever you are. I had this charcuterie board when I first got there. It was insane. Like between Vancouver and Anaheim, like what were some things? I think maybe listeners out there, they'd be interested in knowing the maybe difference between organizations. Like, was there anything as a player on the ice, off the ice, that was just difference between the two?
Oh boy, you really want me to answer this question right now?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Who,
I think it's
who's
interesting.
who's paying your bills right now? The Anaheim
Well,
Ducks.
you'll be getting a check in the you'll be getting a check in the mail.
You'll be unemployed after this answer. No, just kidding. But like I'm kind of hinting at it. So you go from a Canadian team, which is so in the NHL, the markets are all kind of tiered A, B, and C. Based on like endorsement deals, the size of the market, the fan base, and all that. Vancouver was considered an A market when I was there, still is. The New Yorks, the Bostons, the Montreals, the Torontos, all A markets. Chicago, and Anaheim was considered a C market just because of a newer team getting going, Southern
See, Juice, that's
California.
interesting because I have never even heard that right there. So that's
Yeah.
why that's why I think it's important that I asked this question. So go on.
Like for like a Bowers. So if you were ever trying to negotiate an equipment deal, personally, like it would be they're like, okay, you're in Anaheim, you're in C market. Okay, we can only offer you this much to wear our equipment.
Juice,
So,
I never had that leverage. I'm not an 808 game guy. Like I never had that
well,
leverage. I just like give me whatever you got, dude. I'll be happy with whatever you got.
and I hate that number, 808 games. I have no idea why playoff games don't count, and like even preseason games
I didn't
don't count
mention
in the
that.
NHL
Yep.
because playoff games are twice as hard
Yeah.
as three times as hard as So
Oh,
like I'm whatever. I'm over 900, and I consider myself 1,000 pro games, just like you played more than your number suggests. But anyways, going back to the original question, so the market. So when you're in Vancouver, you're treated like you're in an A market as far as like the food, the facilities, the travel, the hotels you stay at, the sports science department, the recovery. We had people that we brought in from Italy that we billeted, and their whole job was to make sure that we focused on recovery, cutting edge ways for us to recover. And we just had departments allocated towards our performance. Our families were taken care of, the wives lounge, the spouses room, full catered meals all the time. The kids babysitting service, so like our spouses could watch our games in the stands. And like to some people that might sound luxurious, but really when you're talking about like a $70 million salary cap per season, this is like bare minimum because you're trying to get the most out of your players. If I know that my wife and my kids are taken care of in the dressing room, you don't think that I can give 100% focus to my game onto the ice? And I mean, that just funneled over into everything. So when you come to a different organization, yeah, like there's a lot less at your disposal. And I remember like when I first got to the Ducks, and I feel like I'm a good. I think I'm a good teammate. I know I'm a good teammate, but there was times where I just
Not
kind of
what
go
I
to
heard.
Getsy. I go, yeah. I go Getsy. I go Getsy. Why do we do this? And he goes like something that, and he goes, well, that's the way we've always done it. And I go, oh, well, that's not a good answer. And then I'd be, oh, Getsy, why do we do this? Like we could probably do this, so it should be a little bit better. Well, that's the way we've always done it. So we got that answer a lot in Anaheim. I go, just because you've always done it this way, that there could be a better way to do it. So Kess and I quickly developed a reputation for the first year in a playful way for kind of, complaining at times a bit. But it was just more or less we were used to a certain standard of how to be treated as an NHL player. And we performed, we held up our end of the bargain, and it was just a little bit different when I came to Anaheim.
See that? I mean, that is a fascinating answer. Like honestly, so it just no, thanks for sharing that. Vancouver, dude, you were there. The riots. I mean, where were you? Okay, so you guys lose, and it must still just crush you. I mean, what? I mean, just as far as I remember those Burrows goals, and just it was a devastating loss. You guys were number one in points that year, right? You're the top team in the league.
We were, yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
game 7 loss?
Game seven loss in the Stanley Cup final.
G
Can't get any worse,
g
can it?
Game 7 loss, the riots. Like, what happened after the game? What did you guys, like, get together as a group, go to, like, kinda a team dinner, and then that was going on?
No, like it was one of those things where I can remember two times in my career, after a game breaking down in tears. And that was definitely one of them. And the first time was in college. I think it was my senior year in college after my last playoff game. It was against Michigan State in Munn Arena. And after the game, I came in the lobby and I just saw my dad and broke down into his arms, right? So two times in my whole career. And that game seven, same thing, because you put so much into it and you're so close and there's so many emotions and you're physically and mentally exhausted, your family's exhausted and grinded for a 10-month season essentially, and you get so close and you lose, so it's devastating, right? So like after the game, it's kind of like nobody knows what to do, right? You were
Yeah.
prepared for something better and a celebration, and everyone kind of just goes their own way. I go up and I get my kids and my wife upstairs. My kids are young at the time, and we start to kind of hear stories about, like, we're up in like the a lounge upstairs and on the concourse, and we start to hear stories about, like, oh, there's like a riot starting downtown, and you just hold out here, hold out here. Some of the team security is like, just hold out here for a bit. So my kids now are like sleeping, we're tired, you just want to go home and cry in your own bed. My kids are sleeping on my chest. And we were renting an apartment downtown, and in the conference finals, the landlords moved back from China, and they said, you guys are out. Like, we want to move back now. And I'm like, what? I go, I don't know if you're paying attention right now, but we're kind of in the middle of something
I just
important in
lost
the
in
city.
game 7 of the Stanley Cup
Uh,
Finals, like,
no,
come on.
this was the round before, Emer. So like before the finals,
No way.
they they kicked me out of my apartment I was in for 2 years, and we had to move into like a furnished living apartment. So we're essentially living in a hotel, my kids and I, right downtown. And so we couldn't go. So they tear gassed that whole street. So we couldn't get back to our hotel until like 3 in the morning. So luckily, you've probably heard this name before. Peter Gurgis is a
Yeah.
good friend, and he had a hotel and a restaurants and all these places. He had something set up at one of his hotels, just like some food and stuff like that. So we went back there, and we honestly just waited. We waited out the riots, waited out the tear gas to dissipate. Wild, right? Kids are sleeping. There was like maybe like 6 or 7 of us with our families. Like Chris Tanev was there, and Cass and I,
Beauty.
Tanner Glass, awesome guy.
Tanev's a beauty, yeah.
His his dad was there. His brother Brandon was there, and we're all just having a couple beers and just waiting it out. And just it was a miserable finish to like a great run that we had.
Well,
So that's
you had a great career, just like you really did. That's a lot of games played. It's just a lot of rugged play, tough on the body. Like I mean, that's just a lot of hockey to be played. So good on you, and congrats on a great career. Post playing career, now you got just once again 1,000 things going on. You've made a huge impact on CBC and Sportsnet. Did you know broadcasting was something that you wanted to do?
No, 100% no. I actually don't like media. I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, don't take a sip, you'll spit it out. I don't like media. Even throughout my career, like, I was very playful with the media,
Yeah,
but, I would never consider myself like, I would never say, "Oh, I really enjoy the media." I
yeah,
just, I like to give it back a little bit. I like to keep it even keel, right? Because you take so much abuse as a player and
yeah,
your teammates take so much abuse, and I hated the negativity. I hated in Vancouver when we were on a 10-game winning streak, and we come back from a road trip, and there's articles like, "Oh, Steve Bernier hasn't scored in 8 games." What?
yeah,
Who cares?
yeah,
We're on a 10-game heater
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
You're picking the one guy who's not playing his best, and you're gonna like. I hated stuff like that. So as you can tell, like I'm a pretty positive guy when I on the panel. I've had one and a half kind of negative kind of segments in my 5-year tenure. One was recently Nick Cousins, and the other one was kind of like a mini Shabbat from Ottawa, which I still thought was super fair.
Yeah.
So I'm a positive guy. I like to have fun. But when I first kind of retired, I went to the Spengler Cup in December, January, and then after that, Sportsnet approached me and they said, if you're not going to sign with an NHL team, will you come work the All-Star Game in San Jose? And it was in that January. It was close to California. I mean, close to Anaheim, so it was an easy decision. I'm like, yeah, I'll just kind of like try it. Like my agent's like, try anything and see if you like. If you don't like it, move on. So I went there. I did color on the bench, interviewed some players, and I really liked it. So that was kind of the start. And then Elliot Friedman convinced me to come into the studio in Toronto for a Saturday night, and different feel than being at a rink on the bench with the players. Now I'm in a studio. You're watching 10 games at once. You're kind of dissecting them. But again, it was a turbulent time. It was the week after Don Cherry was just kind of had his episode on air, and there was like a lot of tension. And I don't know. I came in there and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the people, and I'm still there now.
And what's been your favorite part? Is it the people, like the camaraderie?
I don't think I'd still be doing it if I didn't enjoy doing it. If I didn't enjoy going there, because I live close to you here in California, and I fly to Toronto every weekend. So to do that, like you have to love it. So I enjoy the people I work with. It's fun. I get to talk hockey. Like during the week, I'm on the ice 4 days a week in the mornings coaching kids at Great Park. So I get that part. I get the on ice, the coaching, the being around the game, and then on the weekends for one day for 12 hours, I get to talk NHL hockey, which is awesome. So I kind of check both boxes, and mentally that allows me to be sane in my retirement, if that makes sense.
It's pretty rad. Pretty rad. Uh, on air gas. So this season versus the Nashville Predators, we were in Nashville. Juice, I said hot fart on air. Like it was, I was thinking, hot start and hard fought, and it came out hot
Yeah.
fart, dude. And then I try to gather myself, and I'm like, oh my god, and it just like it would never stop in my mind. I'm assuming you haven't had anything as egregious as that, but like, has there been anything you just look back on and you're like, wow, I said that, or no?
So like the bet for me personally, like when we have like a pregame show, a lot of it is like I know going in what I'm going to be talking about. There's like preparation for the 35-minute pregame show that we do before the 7 o'clock Eastern game, the 4 p.m. Pacific for you guys. But then after that, some of these intermissions, we're basically kind of having conversations and winging it. So that's where like I kind of get in trouble when you're having a conversation, and my good buddy Elliot Freeman, maybe contradicts something I'm saying, and then I fire back at him, and like it's like you're with your buddies, like spur of the moment. Sometimes I use language. So the one time I kind of muttered off under my breath, like "f off," like under my breath, and he kind of looked at me and he goes, "Did you just swear?" And I'm like, "Shut up, you rat! Like
Yeah,
stop
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
calling me
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
I did under
yeah,
my breath, but
yeah.
nobody heard. But he's like trying to make, and like the host took over luckily, and he's still at the same time looking at me. He goes, "You just swore," like tattling on me, right? I go, "No, I didn't. Prove it. I didn't do it." So yeah, like I've had a couple close ones, but you can say anything once. That's what I'm told.
I know,
Anything once.
I know, but now I'm just like, it's like PTSD, right? It's like, what's the next thing gonna be?
Oh yeah.
You know what I
You
mean?
can't think about it though. You cannot think about it because then you will say it.
Okay, I'm gonna stop thinking about it.
Clear the mechanism. Clear the mechanism.
I'll try. I'll do my best. A couple awesome things you got going on as well. West Coast Academy and Fairmont Hockey. Tell me about it.
So West Coast Academy is the hockey academy that I started 6 years ago with my partner from Kelowna. So two Canadians that were moved down here,
Is he a
and
beauty?
essentially he's a beaut, obviously Kelowna guy, right? Canadian, great. He's been a professional skills coach for the last 25 years. He skates NHL guys all summer in
So he's a
Kelowna, which
lake
is a
guy. He's like on the boat,
hockey
like
hotbed.
all yeah.
He's a lake guy, but he grinds it, and he's on the ice with all the NHL guys that want to skate in the summer. So we put it together, and at the time our kids are all playing. He's coaching a team that's Junior Ducks, AAA.
Nice.
So I come in as an assistant at Junior Ducks, and we have a whole bunch of kids. And what our academy is we're just going to provide supplemental training to kids that play on different club teams. So we had Ice Dogs players, we had mostly Junior Ducks, we had some Junior Kings. So we provide supplemental training because the AAA hockey here in California, there's only 3 hours of ice a week for practice. These Canadian kids are on the ice 6, 7, 8 hours a week. So it started that way. We still have two groups that still operate the same way, but one group that was going into high school, we were losing all of our best players to prep schools like the Shattuck St. Mary's, the Mount St. Charles. So we're like, we have to start an academy style team ourselves, or we're going to continue to lose these kids when they get to grade 9. So that's where we partnered up with Fairmont, and Fairmont provides the education. We provide the coaching and consulting and video work. And we've been doing that. We've had that group for 3 years, and we look to recycle a new team every 4 years and see them through. Whole point of this, Emer, and I know it's very political everywhere in North America for hockey. The whole point of this is we're trying to help kids move on to the next level. It's not about like owning kids or getting them to it's just if they decide to come to us, we try to make them better hockey players, and whatever their goals are, CHL or junior or college, we're just trying to help them get to the next level.
Love it. Grow the game here. Love it.
Yep.
Juice, if you were to pick one team, change in course here, if you were to pick one team right now at this point in the season to win the Stanley Cup, who are you going with? I know it's a tough question. There's a lot to digest with that one, but like, who do you got? Like, who do you just really like right now? It's like, okay, I could see them. They have it all by looking at them right now that I think they got a great shot.
So I'm not a big prediction guy. Like I usually don't like doing this, but
I'm so bad at predictions. I'm so terrible.
I like to look at things and analyze it myself, not like what I could have, should have. But when you're asking that question, in my head, I'm thinking of one team.
Like screw this guy.
No, I'm thinking like one team right now, and they're sliding a bit. But when you look at their team and like they've been close the last couple of years, I think the New York Rangers.
Wow.
I think that's a team if they get healthy and Shesterkin's hot. And
but
I like
is he going to be hot?
Laviolette. That's the big if. You know that. If you have a hot goalie in the playoffs,
Quickie's been so good. You know what I mean? Like,
so you got two good goalies there. You got Lafreniere's having his best season, breakout season for him. Kako going down kind of hurts them, but Kreider and Zibanejad, like this is their time. They're like not getting any younger. You look at their D with Fox and Trouba and Keandre Miller, like that's as good a top 3 as any team. If they can put it all together, I like them right now. Like, it's a crapshoot in the playoffs. It's an absolute crapshoot. Everybody has a chance to win. It depends who gets hot down the stretch. There's so much parity in the game right now, and it's so cool to watch. But I just think the Rangers, maybe, why not? Why not the Rangers this year?
I just think at the goaltending, once again, Quickie's hot, and that's the only thing. Like, you just have to have, like, if Quickie's going, then fine. Or, if they're both going, whatever. But right now, there's a hole there. You know what I mean? But everything else, they're just scary, especially Zibanejad there. Mm-hmm. They're just on the flank, on the power. It's so fun to watch.
But how many teams, Emer, do you watch throughout the course of a season that are, like, really good the whole season? Like, nobody,
yeah.
Right? Like, there's ebbs and flows and there's dips. This is, if you think about it logically, this is a good time for a dip. Like right after the All-Star, right before the All-Star, right after, and then maybe as you get into March, they really start going. And that's what I'm kind of seeing that the Rangers are capable of doing, but who knows, right? That's just another educated guess. Not really that educated. So Bowling Green guess right there.
Hey, don't beat yourself up, Juice. You're a smart, sophisticated guy. Don't beat yourself up. For me, a team I look at honestly, and I don't know, I don't want to like say another team and like root and predict for another team other than the Ducks, of course. But the Vancouver Canucks, I just feel like, look, they're second fewest goals allowed per game, and they're first in goals. And the fact that they don't let in that much, they're scoring a lot, but look at their shooting percentage. And when you watch them, like every play is like a set play. On the entry,
Mhm.
they're all dialed. They're all in their routes. They all know where each other are. On some of the corner plays, the pop out plays offensively, they're quick. They get the puck back, they do it again, and they're dialed. You know what I mean? So I look at them
Yeah.
as just being, and for the Vancouver sake, it's like they're not expected to win. So I don't think the pressure's all on them. You know what I mean? They got
I disagree.
but they got goaltend. Like, look, every category, they're so sharp. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I
And all I'm saying, I get it's a Canadian market, but like, did anyone think that this was going to be the year? I don't know. Like, you were in Vancouver longer than me.
no.
Maybe it is like, no, you got to win it now. I don't know.
So, like, I was in Vancouver at the start of January for 2 weeks straight, and I heard a lot of Stanley Cup talk. And I actually went on air at Hockey Day in Canada, Victoria, and I'm like, "Pump the
You're
brakes,
like,
guys! Like,
great.
this is you weren't even supposed to make the playoffs this year. Like, you're in a good position, but like, as fans and media, just enjoy the ride the wave. You're in Huntington Beach surfing right now. Ride the wave, right? Don't get too far ahead of yourselves. Don't put too much pressure on this team. But you're right. Like that would be the easy to pick when you asked me that question. They just added Lindholm. I talked to him Saturday and Friday for a while. Super excited to be there. He's going to slot in on that power play in the bumper position. So now Pedersen's one
Great.
timer. If he doesn't like it, he
That's
can
just
bump it to
greedy.
Lindholm
That's
for a
greedy.
while. Like
That's
it, they're so much better.
it's
And
not
you
fair.
talk about when you watch them and they're all like on the same page and face off plays. Well, what is that? That is 100% coaching. Like as a player, I don't know how many good coaches and bad coaches you had, but I know coaching is not the same across the board in the NHL. There are like really good dialed in coaches, and then other people you'd be really surprised how it's just like basically read and react coaching. They'll like watch the game and be like, oh, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do that instead? Why? Well, what do you mean? Like, why don't you give me a structure and then maybe we can so talk it. I talked to him for a long time. I really like the way he coaches and Adam Foote as well. He's got those D dialed in. He's got Quinn Hughes playing the best hockey of his career, and he's got Quinn Hughes making good decisions every shift, like defending. And if he doesn't play as much. And Quinn knows that. Quinn knows to play 27 minutes a night. He has to play good every shift. He starts cheating a little bit or getting lazy, the ice time comes back. So it's a great incentive for the defenseman.
I tell you what, but like JT Miller, like I don't know, like and the captain was named, but I think JT was getting a little bit of like he's a prideful guy. Like I know JT well, and he is a leader through and through. Like honestly, so I think those set play you talk about coaching, but I think it's the players too, just wanting it, like just wanting
Oh
to
yeah,
dial it in. You know what I mean? Like there's
yeah.
a certain level of just pride and ownership that goes into that. But when you just watch them, they're always on the same page, and it looks like they're having so much fun doing it. You know?
Well, they're hungry because they've lost a lot, right? They've made the playoffs 1 year since 2015, and it was that lockout year where the season was cut short. They might not even have made it that year, so they're hungry. They've been getting beat up in that market for a long time. And JT, like he's an interesting guy. It's funny you say him because I was doing an interview with Quinn Hughes this weekend, and I'm like, JT and I have a love hate relationship. I love him, and he hates me. And he kind of laughed. And then like the story behind that is like I know him a little bit too, and I don't think he likes some of the things I said about him last year. He had a couple turnovers, and then remember like kind of lazy back checks. And I go into the studio, and my producer's like, "We have to." He's like, "I know you like the Canucks, but we have to talk about this." So I went on air and I just said, "I can't defend laziness. I can't defend making a mistake and not back checking." I don't think he liked that too much. But this weekend, we certainly talked about it, buried the hatchet, laughed about it, and I told him, I go, "Hey, bud, regardless of what I said, I would take you. I would take you on my team any day of the week. Like any day of the week, I would take you on my team. Just like Kessler, I go, I would take you guys any day on my team because you guys are warriors. You compete, you love to win, and you're just dialed."
That's actually a good comparison. Kessler and JT Miller, in
Yeah,
a sense, like back to back 40 goals for Kess, right? In Vancouver, was it
I
back to
would.
back 40?
No, he had 1 year at 40 and he won the Selke. I would say, and I would always say JT is a little bit more offensive than Kess, and Kess was a little bit better defensively, but they have that same bite to their game, right? Right?
Kess had a good shot. JT's Miller shot is it's so good. It's so good. The way
Yeah.
he leans over that puck, puts so much weight. It's just he can snap
And
it.
you know
He can
what's
snap
funny
it.
about JT? Like he's so competitive. So while he was doing an event, a passing event at the during the skills. And while he was doing, me and Elias Pettersson were doing commentary on it. And PD was not chirping him, but like kind of like, oh, he's not doing that good or whatever. Somehow he found out about it, like in the moment. And then when they went into the hardest shot, he beat PD in the hardest shot. He had a 102 point whatever, and he beat PD by a little bit. And after he comes over to me, he goes, I beat him in the hardest shot. He goes, that's worth $1 million to me. He's so competitive. He goes, he's so competitive. Like, I'm like, oh, like I didn't even realize you cared about beating him. Like I thought you'd want to win the whole thing. He goes, I'm so happy I beat that guy. Like those are the kind of guys and those are the kind of attitudes that you win with. Like that's sports right there.
Yeah.
That's a competitive guy.
There's so much talent on that team. It's so fun to watch. It's so scary. So hey, your time's valuable, Juice. I know that. One last thing. Edwin Castro, totally random, but it's going to lead into my next, my last question, which I think is so important. It's not asked enough, or at least brought up enough. So Edwin Castro, he just won the lotto, or well, not just one, few lottos ago, 2.04 billion. Okay, because this is what I'm bringing up too, Juice. You being on the Etem Up show, like I feel like I hit the lotto. I'm not just saying that just to say that. It might be corny, but hey, it rings true. This Edwin Castro dude, 2.04 billion. He's buying up property like randomly, and I'm looking at it right now. 25.5 million was one of the pads he purchased, and then $47 million on the next one. 70% of lotto winners just lose it all. And it segues into my next. Have you seen this guy?
No, I'm
Or have
curious to
you
see where this. I'm curious to see where we're going with this. So I'm into it. Keep going.
have you okay, so you're
No.
unfamiliar the property taxes on those
Yeah.
things, right? You know what I mean? So you've never had any amount of money ever. You plank down money for now you get the property taxes, right? And it's just this is what happens. So athletes, and I think it's such an important question. I think you're so well suited to answer this. Like athletes first, and more specifically, entry level contracts as far as signing bonus or entry level contracts for any young player coming up through the ranks through the National Hockey League. Like financially, like is there something that you could look back on and maybe do something different early on? Do you have any advice for, guys that, because you don't know, right? You don't know if your career is going to be 808 games like yours was or 173 like mine, right? So like what would your advice be to, and that's why I bring up the lotto. It's just like I don't know where that's going. I'm anticipating this guy's just gonna, end up like a
Yeah.
lot of the rest. And so same with athletes. It's like 70%, fall on financial hardships after their post playing days. So like you're a business owner, you're a hard worker, you have so many, great things going for you. Like you figured that out post career. Some others, can't find that those niches. Like what would your advice be for like saving well so you don't, you could at least have a break if you need one, right?
Well, I'm actually passionate about this question because I feel like there's a proper way to do it. So I took finance. I have a business finance degree from Bowling Green. So when I
Here he
went
goes.
there,
Here we go. Juice
every
bragging about himself. I didn't mean. Okay.
no,
Anyway, no, no, no.
no, but
I'm just
everybody
kidding.
everybody was taking sports management because sports management was the easiest path to getting a degree. And I'm like, well, I kind of want something practical. Like I want to learn about business. I want to learn about money just for like my future. So I mean, like it's like it's a finance degree. It's not like it's not like Harvard, but it gave me like a base of information. So when I first signed a contract in the NHL, the way I looked at it is every contract you sign, pretend that's going to be your last. Pretend you're not going to get another contract. So what can you do? How much of that can you save to set you up for your next job or your next career. So like I signed my first one, and then my big one I signed was a 2-year one way. 2-year one way. So it was 500 and 500. So it was a 2-year $1 million contract. So I knew I was getting $1 million in the next 2 years. So just average, you're going to get half of that after taxes. So 500 grand US. I was going to live in Canada. So right away, I'm like, okay, how much of that in 2 years can I save and put towards my house? Because if I retire after 2 years, if I have a house paid for that I can live in and I don't have a mortgage, then I'm like already ahead of everybody else, in my opinion, right? So that's what I did. I bought a house within my means, something that I could afford, and I chipped away at it. Obviously, didn't pay it off in those 2 years, but I was pretty close. And then after that, boom, another contract. Now I got a 3-year deal. I have a certain amount of money coming in. Now I'm like, okay, definitely paying off my house as quick as I can, paying off cars. I'm not a big debt guy. And you have so many financial advisors and, wealth management guys. And some of my two best friends in California are wealth management guys. And we argue about this all the time. I go, you can't have debt. Like, why would you have debt? Why would you have money in your bank account, but then you also have debt? Like, why wouldn't you chip away and pay off your house and your cars and live debt free? And then after that, like, you can start saving and you can start investing money in the market. They're like, oh, why don't you just take a loan when rates are low and blah, blah, blah. I go, you're playing a dangerous game, right? The market shifts, it goes the other way like it has in the last 4 years. You're in trouble. Now you're getting a double ender, right? So my advice is live within your means, pay off some property or a house, watch that appreciate, and try not to carry as much debt as you can, which is hard, as you know, because you get in the NHL, you want the nice clothes, you want the nice cars, you want the same thing that Crosby's rolling around with, or Getzlaf, or Perry, or those guys. But you have to understand, like, you can have some nice things and you can like splurge. You can buy like a nice watch or have some nice clothes, but you should be trying to save as much as you can for post hockey, because post hockey and a lot of my friends and teammates have learned this. It's funny, you get out of the NHL and it is hard to make a dollar. Like, people think that you can just make 500 grand like that. And I'm talking about some really successful, really good hockey players, and they get out of the game and they think they can just pick up a job for $500,000. I'm like, it doesn't work that way, and it doesn't. And quickly they find out, holy crap, like,
Yeah.
they're getting job offers for $60,000 now,
Yeah.
60, 70,000. Like, I can't, like, they're spending that like every 2 months. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to make money when you get out of the NHL. So you have to save as much as you can when you're in it.
And it's such a great response, like such a great answer. But one thing to add on that, like, I think if you maybe put away, and you got to pay for training, but I think signing bonuses are like, whatever, they're 90. I think they were 90 when I was 90,000. Now they're probably 95, the top ones. I feel like if you
Well,
put
mine was 30. Mine was 30 grand.
30,
I thought
because
it was. I thought
but
it
but
was rich
you
too.
you 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 were you were just rolling, right, rolling through the streets of Bowling Green there. Hey,
Winnipeg.
we're
No, I
rolling.
was in Winnipeg eating I was eating Subway whenever I wanted. I felt so rich.
But if you put away, I don't know, and you got to pay for training, right? Like, I get it, but that's
Yeah.
like almost 300,000 right off the hop. Right. So if you, okay, half, let's just say for the sake of the conversation, half of it goes away due to taxes. A lot of places it's not going to be that high, but
Yeah.
if you put away 50 to 100,000 of just the signing, but if you put away 100,000 of the signing bonus in just index funds until you're done, I mean, that's going to be more than enough to at least set yourself up with a new business, or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So, like, I think that would be
Well,
my
I think it
advice.
was
I love
better.
your advice. I love your long-term, just, financial vision. And, but mine just right off the hop would just be, hey, put away a little bit of that signing bonus money.
Well, I see, it's a long conversation. There's no right
Yeah.
answer to it, right? But I would say, like, I would almost say an index fund, you're making a couple percent, like, but then you're paying for rent. Where are you living? You know what I mean? Like, I always think about like your house first, like your physiological needs, like shelter, food, like take care of that stuff first. So some guys don't know where they're going to live when they're done playing, but there are a lot of guys from like towns in Canada or the US that they most likely want to live back there when they're done playing. Or, I mean, some guys that sign longer term deals and they know they're going to be in a city for 5, 6 years, like buy a house there and try to pay that off. And in the long term game, houses are going to appreciate if you buy and you hold them. If you buy and you hold them for 10, 20 years, like houses and real estate are going to appreciate. Real estates are usually a pretty safe investment. But like you said, it's a long conversation and there's different varying opinions. And some guys found some things work but the living within your means. And the thing I'll say about Canada is everyone gives Canada a bad rap. Like, don't want to go play in Winnipeg, don't want to go play in Ottawa. You get 35% more bang for your buck when you go to Canada. You get everybody in the NHL gets paid in U.S. funds.
I wanted to
And
ask you on
cost
that. I wanted to ask you.
that's huge.
Sorry to cut you off, but there was the time when you were in Vancouver. I'm assuming because I was in juniors, and I think the Canadian dollar was it was worth more. So how did that work out? Were you
No,
losing money? Is it like a set
that was before me. I'm
that
not
was
that old, Emer. So
no, no, no,
settle
no, no,
down a
no,
bit.
no. Honestly, and I'll have to fact check myself here. I try not to lie on this
So
show. I'm
I
assuming
used
I
to,
toss out a
I
lot of
grew
lies,
up. Yeah, you're like me. You just make stuff up for the narrative. But I grew up like Niagara Falls. So when I was younger, we would go over the border to the US to do groceries because the Canadian dollar was worth more. But when I went to college, that flipped. So when I got to the NHL, I think it was like $1.30. It was like close to what it is now. It was like $1.30. A US dollar was worth $1.30 Canadian. So you get paid in US money and you convert it or whatever to Canadian because that's where you're living. So I was getting 35% more money than all the guys that played in the US right off the bat. And cost of living at the time was a lot cheaper in Canada. Now Vancouver and Toronto are ridiculous. They've caught up to the New Yorks and the LAs, but um, being in Canada back then was a really good thing, and it still is for the exchange reason. Our argument.
lot of good stuff. Hey, we got a couple questions and then we're gonna wrap it up. And honestly, the game plan was for me to do a little post All-Star break news, but this has been so juicy here, Juice. This show so far that we're gonna end with these questions. So we got a couple fan messages here for you. Hey Bieksa, don't you love when like I get emails from parents on my like, hey Edom. I'm like, just call me Emerson. Like, anyway,
Well, I was on a plane yesterday coming back from we connected in Vancouver to coming back from Winnipeg to LA, and this guy walks on. He goes, Bieksa. I go, yeah. I go, close. He goes, Bieksa, and I go, no. And I go, how about just Kevin? Just call me Kevin, all right? You're not my teammate. Just call me my first name.
so unfortunate. So unfortunate.
Yeah.
Hey Bieksa, you played against Getzlaff for a long time and then became teammates. Did you love or hate that matchup and why? You're a good golfer. Who is your dream foursome on the course?
I loved playing against Getzlov. He was, I'm going to make a case for him, and I'm sure it's not going to take anything I say, but for him to get into the Hall of Fame, um, he was. What I liked about him is that how good he was. I
Yeah.
love the competition, the matchup. Him and Perry, and they had, at times Penner, at times Bobby Ryan, at times Maroon.
The
They
thing
always
with
had like a big, heavy line,
the
right?
the thing with Getzey is he was so good north south, like just finishing hits on the forecheck, his back check game. You know what I mean? Like
So
he had the
I'll
skill,
say this
yeah.
about, like, I could talk about Getzey all day long. The thing is, I played with probably 6 or 7 Hall of Famers up right to this point right now. The Sedins, Luongo, Matt Sundin. There's a few that are a little bit older that have retired. Getzlov is by far the most naturally talented person I've ever played with. Ever played with. And like coming back from the summers, and I'm not ragging on him, but I don't think he trained quite as hard as I did, or Kessler, or Cogliano. And he would, as soon as he puts on his skates, he's the best guy on the ice. He wouldn't even tape his stick. So people that play hockey realize when you don't tape your stick, there's like no friction and the puck just slides around. He
Which
wouldn't tape his stick to make it harder on himself, and he would still be the best player on the ice.
Juice, it drives me bonkers when I'm working with, some of my clients on ice, right? And they don't tape their stick. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, if you're a 50 goal scorer in the show making 8 million, I'm not saying anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the puck is slipping off your stick like every pass. It's like, no, you have to
It's
have it taped.
ridiculous.
You have to, it's
Your
not
shot would be so
cool.
much harder. It'd be so much
Yeah.
harder. Exactly. It's almost like a cool thing. Oh, like, look, I don't have any tape on my, or I have one strand. What's cool about it? You can have
What
a harder shot.
cool is the celly after a sick goal? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like getting it done. So I'm with you on there. I'm glad we agree. in that department. Next one. Why the name Juice? Was there other nicknames you'd rather have? Did you give any good nicknames to teammates?
Was there any I'd rather have? Yeah, there's tons of other nicknames I'd rather have. The man, king, like, yeah, of course. Juice, like, you don't pick your nickname most of the time in hockey. A lot of times it goes based on your name. Hockey players add a Y to it or an IE or something like that. Mine was like, I come from Bowling Green, and I don't know what your body's like, Emer, but I would lose a ton of weight in season, and then I'd work hard in the summer, and I'd put all my weight back on and my muscle and all that stuff. So when I got to Manitoba after from Bowling Green, I was at the end of the season. I was depleted. I was lean. I was like 185, 190 pounds. And then when I came back to training camp the next year for the lockout, knowing I was trying to make an AHL team, like I was 205, 208. I was like jacked, right? And it was right away. It was like, juice. He's on the juice. Like, how do you put on 15, 20 pounds in the summer? And I'm like, and you just don't say anything to a young guy, but I'm like, if I took steroids, like I would be 230, right? Like, but I appreciate it was a flattering, they meant it to be belittling, but it was flattering that people thought I worked out hard enough that I was on steroids. So, not the best story, but that's basically what it is. And then you just try not to draw attention to it.
Yeah.
It's like juice, juice, juice. If I was like, I'm not on steroids, it would make it worse, right? So you just kind of like, don't say much about it. And then whenever fans would ask, I'd be like, oh, I like pineapple juice. Because obviously you don't want to be associated with anabolic steroids.
Yeah.
So I'd make up some stupid story like, oh, I always drink pineapple juice or something.
My body's a Bentley, by the way. Just
I could tell.
You brought it up. So, who was your favorite teammate? We played
one.
three. I played 3 games. So we were teammates for 3 games. And then I got sent down to San Diego, and then I was out the rest of the year. I had surgery done on my knee. I was there. We were teammates for 3 games. That was a fun.
Yeah,
I want to say that was a fun. I think I met you guys in Philadelphia. We had a good time. And so, but bottom line,
yeah.
who was your favorite teammate?
So you're saying you don't qualify?
I don't qualify. I don't. I think I would. I think I knocked out of the park for those. Probably week I was there, but
Yeah.
I didn't meet the game cutoff. So who was your favorite teammate?
Oh, that's such a tough one because you have so many buddies that you just over the years. Sneakily, like Alex Edler was one of my favorite teammates, and I had dinner with him. He lives in LA now. Like same thing, came down to California like I did at the end of his career, and family, wife, and kids didn't want to leave, so he's Hermosa or Manhattan right now. So Eagle's probably one of my favorite. Like you just think about when you go on the road and you go for dinners and then you go for some drinks, like who are you always around? I was always, at the end of the night, it'd always be me and Eagle. It'd always be the two of us. Fowler was one of my favorite guys, and
Beauty
and Anaheim, even though he's a bit poopy pants. I gravitate. I think I gravitate to the poopy pants guys, like Kessler. Like I gravitate because I love to like get him in a good mood or like razz him or like chirp him or something. So like I sat beside Fowler and Chris Wagner on the plane for years, and Wags was another poopy pants guy all the time.
Wags
I just like
is a
those
beauty
kind of guys.
too.
Yeah.
Oh.
In Vancouver, the Sedins, like I still talk to the
Great
Sedins
guys.
all the time. Like different type of personality than me, obviously. But like that's what I love about them. I just love like they're actually like legit good humans. Like you'd want your daughters to like marry guys like that.
Well
that's
put.
kind of weird to think about,
Well
right?
put. Well, no, but seriously, no, well put.
Two guys
100%.
that I played with. Like I only played with these 2 guys 1 or 2 years, Jared Bull and Rafi Torres. Like those are more of my personality kind of guys.
Not my daughter, but whatever. Yeah,
I wouldn't want my daughter marrying those guys. Maybe Bull or probably both of them because they both take care of her. But those are guys. Rick Rippon was my late buddy that I grew up with. So yeah, there's a list for you.
Oh, good stuff. Why did Vernon Fiddler make fun of you during the game? It backfired on him. Haha.
Because I tried to beat him up for 10 years. Like we came up together in the AHL and we played, then we started in the NHL together. He was always like a 4th line centerman and he was a little weasel. And, back then, like when I came up, you fought everybody. Like you didn't get to pick your spots. So if like somebody wanted to fight you, you couldn't say no. And this guy would never fight me. and he would chirp me and he would chirp me and then the referees would come in and he'd kind of go limp. And I wanted to fight this guy for so long just to shut him up. And I asked him to fight that game again. And I already knew the answer. So but I give him the token ask. Hey, you want to fight? And then he started mocking me. And that was kind of the rest is history.
Actually a beauty though. Like actually a good guy. And
I
I
heard
think
he
he
is.
was,
I heard he is.
yeah, actually a beauty.
So I've
What,
coached against him since we retired. Our sons are both 2007. So I've seen him in the rinks and we've talked.
did you ask him through passing? Did you ask him again?
Yeah. I'm like, hey, just so we're clear, you don't want to go.
Yeah. That's good stuff. What was this is the last question. Last message. What was your welcome to the show moment and how many of those did you give to others?
My first shift in the NHL, I started with the West Coast Express, which at the time was the best line in the world. Brendan Morrison at center, Todd Bertuzzi, the best power forward in the game at the time, Marcus Naslund, just won the Players Voted Pearson Award the year before. I start with them and Matthias Ohlund, who was a stud. We win the face-off to Matthias. He's a lefty. He goes D to D to me. We're in Vancouver. I'm a Canadian kid. I'm hyped up. Hockey night in Canada. I just want to get the puck off my stick.
Yeah.
So I had time to skate to get the red line and put it in deep, but I just got it and I just snapped the puck.
Just 30 feet of gap.
Brendan Morrison, think about the centerman just won the draw. He turns, we go D to D, and I am already snapping it to the centerman's tape. Jeremy Roenick just destroys him, right? Like Morrison flips in the air. It's in Vancouver. The crowd goes, ooh. I come up and I run him, try to fight a defenseman, penalty. So 8 seconds in, I've given our best centerman a suey and I've taken a penalty. And I'm sitting in the box and I'm like, Jesus.
Just what you expected, right? Just what you were visualizing.
This is so embarrassing. I'm like, this is so embarrassing right now. Like, am I going to recover from this? So luckily I did.
And then is there something that you did to a rookie or you give the second part of that message? Have you give a welcome to the NHL moment to a rookie or a younger player?
I don't know, nothing I can really think about. I wasn't, rookies on my team, I was never hard on. I liked the rookies because I knew how hard it was. So I always kind of took the rookies under my wing if I could. But players on the other team, I was a bully on the ice. I always tell my kids that I coach, you can be a bully on the ice, can't be a bully off the ice. You got to be a warrior on the ice, and you got to be a gentleman off. But I was a bully on the ice, and coaches used to praise me for it. They used to tell Alain Vigneault used to tell me, he goes, I love how you bully Mason Raymond in drills. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, Mason's got to fight through it, but it's so good for him that you bully him in the corners and drills. And I'm like, oh man, he's my teammate. I feel bad about that. But he's like, no, it's a good thing. So I think I was hard on a lot of the skill guys and a lot of the young guys on the ice.
It's kind of crazy. You mentioned Mason Raymond, just a quick point. It's just he was pretty frail, right? I mean, he was pretty, and for him to play at a time that he did and have some great years, that's, you just mentioned that name and I'm like, Mason Raymond, wow.
Well, when he came into training camp in Vancouver, he came from Minnesota Duluth University, and I don't think he was expected to make the team. And he just blew everybody away with his speed and his skill. He dominated training camp. I think it was in Whistler that year. I just remember everyone was like, "Who is this guy?" He's a guy that came and he just forced his way onto the team because he was that good.
That's unbelievable. And one last thing. Just as far as where you want the game to go, where do you see just I don't know yourself in 10 years, and where do you want to see the game of hockey progress in 10 years?
In 10 years, myself, I probably most likely see myself working for a team or with a team at that point. I don't think I'm a media lifer. I've always kind of wanted at some point, once my kids are grown out of the house and in college, and I don't want to miss this time of my kids' lives, to be honest. So I know once they're gone, they're gone. So I'm trying to soak this all in. But once they're gone, I think I'll probably move on and want to get into the competitive part of being on a team trying to win. The way the game is, I love where the game is right now. I really do. I just want to make sure that it's maintained. We're at a great balance right now of skill and speed and physicality. And at times the physicality is going down and the speed and skills going up. I'd like to see them parallel, like where they are. Guys like Jacob Trouba, I'd love to see guys like him still in the game. I love to see Delorier's still in the game. And I want to keep that balance. When people say to grow the game, we have to go all speed and skill, disagree. Disagree. And there's fans that have been cheering for the NHL and supporting the NHL for 80 years that also disagree. People love watching hockey because there is a physical element to it, and there is a danger, there is a risk to playing in the NHL. If it was shinny and there was no contact, it would not be as popular. The part of the thing that's so impressive for McDavid is everybody out there is trying to hit him and everybody out there is trying to hurt him. And he's so good and so fast and so skilled. And he works through all that stuff and he's that successful in midst of or in spite of the physical. Wayne Gretzky still played. I know he had Marty McSorley and Dave Semenko, but Wayne Gretzky played in a time where guys could hook you, hold you, two-hand you, and he still got 2,800 points and almost 900 goals. Like, that is impressive to me. If there was no contact, those numbers wouldn't impress me. So I just want to keep the balance of where the NHL is right now. Understanding it's different than minor hockey and junior and youth. Fighting is still a part of the game. I think you need to have it because I think the stick work and all that gets out of control if there isn't that threat. But I like where we are right now. I just want to maintain that.
So many good points, Juice. Can't thank you enough. And the thing that you've said so many good things. But the one thing that stands out to me is that gentleman off the ice and just being a bully on the ice. I love that. I love that. And I love it because, there's so many maybe youth hockey players that they can't leave their niceness at the door before they hop onto the ice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you find that so often. But yeah, you just need to find it. You need to channel that bully out on the ice, be a good guy off of it. So hey,
Maybe bully's not the right word.
no,
Maybe
I think bully. I think bully for sure. I think that's a
but
great.
I like competitive. Maybe competitive is
I
the
like
word. Like
bully.
bully. Yeah, I'll go
I
with
like
bully too.
bully.
All
Bully on the ice. I like it.
Competitive bully. Competitive bully.
Because you're chirping too. You're like getting under the skin. It's like leave it all out there, like
But keep in mind for your listeners, I was never suspended or fined one time in my career. So there's definitely a line to play by. Like, I don't mean go around kneeing guys, drilling
I
guys from
hate that.
behind.
I
So
hate that.
there's gotta be a respect and an honor to hockey. I'm big on that. It's not just a bunch of rats running around trying to hurt each other. That's not what I'm talking about. But there is a toughness and a physicality that you need to have, I think, to be successful.
A professional bully. A professional bully.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Professional.
Juice. I can't thank you enough. This is at the top of my list for shows here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for just joining us, Juice, and eat 'em up. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, buddy.